Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Boone. I am a corporate pilot. I fly Gulfstream business jets, and I'm a professional flight instructor. I've been teaching people how to fly airplanes for a living for about 3 years now. Before that, though, I was a student pilot. I did my first demo flight at the age of 12. I started my actual flight training at the age of 16. I soloed at 16 with only 6 hours under my belt, and I saved about $5,000 in my flight training before I ever got to the first solo, and I owe that all to flight simulators. You see, I had been using flight simulators for 3 years leading up to my first solo, leading up to my flight training in general. So when I got into a real airplane for the first time, I had already flown everything from Cessna 172s to Boeing 757s on the simulator. I had done navigation across the United States and across the Atlantic Ocean. I had been on the VATSIM network talking to virtual air traffic controllers. I had learned how to start up an airplane, how to shut it down, how to do emergency procedures, how to navigate, do all sorts of things in airplanes. So when I got to the real airplane, I already kind of knew what I was doing. I just had to adjust and take advice from my flight instructor to get used to the feeling of the real airplane. And since I know how to use flight simulators to save time and money on real life training, I've made it my goal, my mission to help you all do the same thing. So today we're going to be flying the Cessna 172 here, a Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I want to show you a couple of errors that I see student pilots making so that you can avoid them when you hop into the airplane for the first time, and you can learn this from the comfort of your own home using a $60 game on your computer. You now join me here in the cockpit of the Cessna 172 G1000, an airplane I have selected for today's lesson because I know a lot of you guys out there are learning how to fly in this kind of airplane with the same avionics setup. Now, the things I'm going over today don't just pertain to a 172 G1000. They pertain across all different training airplanes and airplanes past the training environment like jets and such, which is a good transition into the first thing I want to touch on. The biggest mistake I see new student pilots make is that they are very, very aggressive on the flight controls. And you can see the camera, which I have up to my right here, that when I'm flying along here, I'm just capturing 4,000 feet. I'm playing with my trim. This is the button I have bound right here, just like the electric trim on the 172 yoke and like a Piper Archer yoke. But if I take my hands off the yoke here, you can see I've got to do a little bit of rudder input to make the airplane coordinated, but in order to make the airplane go straight and level, or in order to make the airplane even turn for that matter, I really don't have to do that much. I'm not manhandling the airplane by any way, shape, or form. All I have to do is coach the airplane into making it do what I want it to do. Whether or not I am in the cockpit, the airplane will still fly. I just need to coach it in the right direction. So if I go completely hands off, the airplane doesn't just fall out of the sky. You don't need to have this incredibly firm and just, death grip on the yoke at all times. And when you keep a full fist on the yoke, your tendency is to pull it close to you. You feel safer. And I see student pilots do something like this. And it's very subtle. And they'll look down, they'll look at a checklist, they'll go, look at their iPad and look for traffic on there. Maybe they'll go and they'll go down here and they'll start typing in a flight plan or checking their engine instruments, whatever it is. And then before you know it, look at the altimeter here. I am up almost 200 feet at this point, all because I had this grip here and I was trying to feel safe, like I had more control over the airplane. What I really needed to do was just let go and let the airplane do what it wants to do. This is why we have trim. Trim can be thought of like cruise control in your car, right? On the way out, when you depart, when you are climbing out, you should be using the trim to help you pitch for your climbing speed. In the Cessna 172, it's probably 74 or 75 knots. That's your best rated climb speed. And when you get to the cruise environment, you set your RPM somewhere in that green band, and then you trim the airplane out to the point where you don't really have to touch the flight controls anymore. And right now, you see, I've got the airplane trimmed out here at almost 2,300 RPM. I'm losing a couple hundred feet per minute. I'm going to set a straight and level sight picture here, and I'm just going to trim now in order for me to take off all the manual input from the yoke. That's all I'm doing. And right now, I'm so close to being perfectly trimmed that all I have to do is just coach the airplane in the right direction and to stay at the right altitude using my fingertips. Look how light I'm being right now. Yes, I know I'm losing a little bit of altitude, but let me click the trim a couple more times, which ended up being too much. And all I'm doing is I'm using my thumb right now to stop this climb. I'm not using a fist. You need to be gentle on the flight controls. Caress it. I want you to think about flying an airplane, at least from point A to point B, being in that cruise environment, climb, cruise, descent, when you can let the airplane be in one state for a long period of time. Think about that like cruising in your car on the highway, right? What do you do when you get on the highway? If you have a Tesla, you put on the autopilot, okay? It's just like you would want to do in a real airplane. But For all of us regular people who don't have Teslas or don't have autopilot, what do? You put on the cruise control, or you just keep your foot on the throttle in a consistent setting so that the airplane doesn't accelerate or slow down. You stay very, very close. That's kind of what I've done here. All I've done now is I've trimmed the airplane up. The airplane's almost 4,000 feet. I'm very, very close. But when you're on the highway, I don't need to be 10 and 2 on the steering wheel and be like, to keep myself centered in the lane. I don't need to do that at all. I think that's just incredibly silly. What do you do when you get on the highway? You lean back, you start relaxing a little bit, and you leave a couple of fingers on the steering wheel. Let the cruise control take care of the speed, and you just keep the car straight in the lane between the two white lines. And that's all you do. There's really nothing more that you have to do. You manage it from time to time. You look at it and you make sure it's going where you want it to go. But there's really nothing more to it than that. And right now, I'm treating the airplane as I would my car. I just made a power adjustment because I didn't like how low I was getting. And I'm being very delicate on the flight controls. There's no reason for me to overcorrect or do anything crazy right now. You need to be delicate. Try to make correlations like that to your everyday life. Like I'm making this correlation between cruising an airplane and being in cruise control on your car on the freeway. This is a very, very simple thing that will make flying an airplane a lot easier for you if you are struggling with some of the basics. The other thing I see a lot of, and I should make an entire video based off this alone, but the other thing I see a whole lot of, especially from those of you guys using G1000 or any glass instruments, is I see you guys tunnel visioned like this. Like the outside world might as well not even exist. This simulator is an outstanding tool to use as a VFR pilot, as a private pilot student or a commercial pilot student, even CFI student, to practice using sight pictures. Look outside. Don't look down here. Do not look at the instruments. Do not stare inside. Look outside and determine whether or not you are climbing or descending. See if you can see what straight and level is just by looking outside of the airplane. And right now, I can see that I'm very close to straight and level. Look at this sight picture here. I can barely see the cowling right over the dash here. I can barely see it, but I can see it rising just enough to point where the horizon and where these mountains are, where that is getting a little bit closer to the cowling, and now it's a little bit bigger. Look as the nose goes down very, very gently. I can see that that area has grown a little bit, and if I push it down a little bit more, the area grows a little bit more. And now that the VSI says 0, I can say that, okay, this is a straight and level sight picture, and this is what I should pitch for whenever I have 2,300 RPM. I can learn all of these things at home from the comfort of my simulator and avoid making bad habits in the real airplane. And I can even break bad habits at home in my simulator and then go apply them to the real airplane. This is an incredible tool, and this costs you nothing. Once you buy Microsoft Flight Simulator or X-Plane 12, whatever simulator you want to use, once you buy it and you start practicing, there is no further investment. You can practice this for unlimited time and not spend any more money. Or you could go learn how to do the same exact thing in a real airplane for about $300 an hour, including the instructor. To me, it's a no-brainer. If you have the simulator, practice these sight pictures, practice level turns, practice steep turns, practice those sight pictures from the comfort of your home, and then go nail them in the airplane. That's what you should do. That is how I soloed in 6 hours versus the average about 25. With that, I'm going to be wrapping up this channel's first ever YouTube video here. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And if you are interested in seeing how you can use your flight simulator to the maximum efficiency in order to save yourself time and money on your real life flight training, please hit the subscribe button. Additionally, if you want to see short form content from me on my other social media platforms 6 days a week, be sure to check those out, link in my description. And lastly, if you know a student pilot or an aspiring pilot that you think could benefit from watching these videos, please share it with them. Again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Never stop learning and fly safely. Bye-bye for now.